today's episode of Would I Repurchase These Palettes? I'm going to talk about 8 palettes in my collection that if some crazy makeup maniac broke into my house and stole these 8 palettes from my collection, would I bother going out? By going out, I mean going onto the internet, most likely, and repurchasing these palettes for my collection. Hello and welcome. If you are new here, my name is Rachel. And if you're not new here, thank you so much for coming back. I've done so many videos in this style before. I will link the playlist down below in the description box, but I want to get to talking about these palettes. I love talking about eyeshadow palettes. You know that. So a couple quick things before we get started. This video idea was created by Dolly Mama Beauty. I will link her channel down below. I've seen a lot of creators do this video and everybody has their own spin on it, but I will tell you the way that I personally like to do it is I like to imagine that I have already owned these palettes and I've lost them, someone has stolen them, but I know what the palette is like, I know what the quality is like, I know how much use I get out of it, stuff like that. So I'm actually thinking about repurchasing them for my collection. And then the other thing I want to mention is this is all based on my own opinion. And actually, just because I say I wouldn't repurchase something doesn't necessarily mean I don't like the palette. There may just be reasons why I wouldn't literally repurchase it, because my collection is huge and I have a YouTube channel. So that also does really take into account why I may or may not repurchase something. Okay, are we ready? I have 8 palettes that I chose at random from a random number generator. I went through and counted the number of palettes, picked it out. If I had already picked it in a past video, I did the next count. I'm hoping I haven't talked about these in a past version of this video, and I'm sorry if I have. Okay, let's do it. And I will link all these palettes down below if they are still available. First off, we're gonna start with Ace Beauté Begonia. This one is a no-brainer for me. I mean, some of these I feel like I am gonna have to think on. This one, I absolutely would not repurchase. The color story on this is beautiful. And I was so excited for this collection. They launched 4 mini palettes in this style. I bought all 4 of them and I went on my wedding/honeymoon and I brought all 4 palettes and I brought a Natasha Denona Mini. Those are the only palettes I brought. I had never used these ones before and I was really disappointed in the quality of the matte shadows. They are just extremely hard pressed in the pan to the point where they're very hard to pick up on a brush, very hard to build up on the eyes. I just really didn't have a good experience with the mattes in particular. The shimmers in this are really pretty, and the shimmers in all of the palettes in this collection are really pretty, but the mattes, and I'm a matte girl, like I want my mattes to be good, you know? And again, I love the color story, but the quality of this one just was not up to par for me, so I would not repurchase it. The next one is an oldie but goodie. I was kind of excited to pull this one, and this is the ColourPop and Kathleen Light's Dream Street palette. Can you believe I still have this in my collection? I can't. I definitely will not be using this on my eyes anytime soon, but I don't know if you can see, this has gotten so much use and love over the years. It used to be my go-to palette. When I was first getting into watching beauty YouTube, I was obsessed with watching Kathleen Light's channel. I loved watching her videos. And when this came out, I thought it was so beautiful. And I really do think it's a beautiful palette. It's a neutral palette with a couple of pops of color, which I'm never gonna hate on, let's be honest. That is like my bread and butter. That is my favorite type of palette. But would I repurchase this palette? Of course, it's no longer available, but if, you know, they relaunched it or whatever, I don't think I would. I don't think I would. That's a hard decision though. I don't know that I would. I'm gonna say no. Although I do really love the color story and I think a lot of it is nostalgia to me. Like I think that's why it's still around. I don't think I'm gonna keep it in my next declutter because my collection is getting out of hand. Like I need more shelving. That's when you know. It's like, do I spend another $100-something on another set of Alex drawers? Or do I declutter some palettes I'm not using? I don't know if this is gonna make it through the next declutter, but I guess I wouldn't repurchase it. All right, next up we have this little quad from Viseart. This is the Petites for Violetta. I really love this little quad, and actually this is one of 2 palettes that I have from Viseart that I've ever tried. I also bought their little mini like all matte neutral palette, which I've not got a ton of use out of. Honestly, I've only used it a couple of times, but this one I did take traveling with me once and I used it quite a lot. I think it's set up in a really nice way where you've got two mattes that are differing in depth, but still very similar in tone. You have a duochrome, which is super pretty. It's a purple to a blue. And I think for like a quote, you know, mainstream brand, they're a luxury brand. I think it's a really nice, fun shade. I should have brought something to wipe my hands with. Hold on.
A few moments later.
And then you do have this super dark metallic, which honestly, I kind of wish it was a dark matte or a really, really light metallic for my inner corner. But I still think it's cool and different, and I like the color story. I like the quality of the shadows. I think I would repurchase this. I just love mini palettes. Like, I love traveling with them, packing like 2, 3, or 4 of them just to mix and match. I love the little, like, it's itty bitty. It's the size of my palm. It's very cute. And I like the packaging. I like the quality of the shadows. I like it. So yes, I would. The next one is the Natasha Denona Glam Face Palette, and I have this one in the light version. I don't think I've talked about this one in this version of this video, but maybe I have. Anyway, this one I definitely would repurchase. Honestly, just for the simple fact that I collect Natasha Denona palettes at this point. Like, I love the brand, I love the shadows. Anything she comes out with that I am attracted to the color story, I will buy it at this point. And I love the eyeshadows in this palette. They are so beautiful. Yes, they're boring and neutral, but so am I. These two shimmers are ultra sparkly. Like, this is the first time I had seen her put in really sparkly shimmers in her palettes. She started to sprinkle them in here and there now, but these two are just like so beautiful. They were the start of that. These cheek products are fine. The highlighter is really pretty. I like it. This cream blush is pretty dry, but I know a lot of people said theirs have completely dried up. Mine hasn't dried up, and I actually don't mind because I have very oily skin. So I don't mind a dry cream blush. It just means it's gonna last on me more, and throughout the day, my oils are gonna kind of peek through and make it a little bit more shiny than when it starts at the beginning of the day. So I quite like the cheek products in this, so I would repurchase this, definitely. All right, coming up next, we have the Nomad Royal Europe palette. I did receive this one in PR, but I'm trying to imagine that I am going to repurchase it with my own money if it did go missing. The packaging on this is stunning. It is so unique. They've not done another packaging before this or since this in this form where it is basically cutouts that are layered and layered and layered upon layer. It's hard to explain, but it's textured, so beautiful. And then on the inside, we have this jewel toned dream. If you like jewel tones, you would really enjoy this palette. The quality of the shadows is good. I would say this palette is not one of my favorite Nomad palettes, if I'm gonna be honest with you. I did do a Nomad palette ranking. I think this was included at the time. I'm trying to think of how long ago I did it. I will link it down below. But this is not like one of my top 5 favorite Nomad palettes for a few reasons. I feel like the mattes in this are really mid-tone to deep. There's no light mattes, which I prefer having a light to deep gradient with my mattes. But I think if you have like a tan to deep skin tone, you would probably get use out of every single one of these mattes because they are more mid-tone to deep and they are very pigmented, almost to a fault, like almost that they're hard to work with. This is just my opinion, and maybe it's my skill level too and how I do my makeup or whatever, but the mattes are very pigmented. These shimmers in this, they're all multi-chromes and they're all ultra beautiful. They're not the strongest shifting multi-chromes, but they are so pretty, very smooth, not textured, not chunky. They're not gonna fall out on your face, but they are just very beautiful. I really enjoy the shimmers in this. I love Nomad Cosmetics, and that's what it comes down to. Like, I will tell you, this is a brand that I will buy anything that they release if I don't get it in PR because I love the brand. I love what they do. I love the work they put into their palettes. I love the packaging. I love the theming. I love their color stories. And even though this isn't my favorite color story, I still can appreciate it and I would definitely repurchase it. I want every single Nomad palette. It's not my favorite, but I do like it and I would miss it in my collection. I'd be having FOMO. So I hope that gave you some info. All right, next up, we have the Odin's Eye and Makeup Just for Fun Flora Story palette. First of all, again, I'm gonna highlight the packaging with Amanda on the front as like a wood nymph, if you will, is so beautiful. And then on the inside, we have this beautiful muted green and purple color story. I really enjoy the Odin's Eye formula. If you've been here before, you know that. Their mattes are just super easy to work with. They are that perfect amount of pigment. And I actually feel like with this palette, they're not as pigmented as the usual Odin's Eye quality. It could just, again, be me, my experience, but they're good. They're easier to work with than, say, like the Nomad ones. You know, these are not super beginner friendly in this particular palette, but in this palette, I feel like anybody could use the mattes, be haphazard, and really not have any issues. And the shimmers in this are really beautiful. I love the selection of shimmers. We've got some deeper shimmers, we've got some lighter and mid-tone shimmers. We have a multi-chrome here, which is the shade Dawn. I have to. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm showing you swatches anyway. I hope you'll be able to see it there. It's stunning. I love when Odin's Eye pops in just like one special shade. That's all I need. So I would definitely repurchase this. Odin's Eye is one of those brands, again, that like it's a automatic buy for me whenever they release something. If I don't receive it in PR, I did purchase this one myself, but I love greens and purples. I love greens and purples, so yes, I would repurchase it. Coming up next, we have literally one of my favorite palettes in my entire collection, and it has been discontinued, so I'm trying not to hype it up, but it is gonna be re-released in a different format. And this is the Fall Magic palette from Unearthly Cosmetics. I love this palette. It is truly iconic.
She's an icon, she's a legend, and she is the moment.
First of all, the color story is a neutral palette with a twist, okay? It is neutrals, but not boring. There is some sort of element of color in here, but it's muted colors, not ultra bright colors that are still, you know, not intimidating for the neutral lover. Love. The mattes in this are beautiful, easy to work with, blendable. I love the different selection of mattes. They're not repetitive. The shimmers in this, I have to swatch them. I know you've probably already seen the swatches. I have to show them to you. They're just like buttery and like slippy. Oh, that one's so beautiful. And just, I'm trying to get back here, but away from the light. I'm speechless. Like I said, this has been discontinued, but Amanda is re-releasing it with a different color story, but it's still very fall and it's beautiful. I'm so excited to pick it up whenever it launches. I don't think it's launched yet. I'm 99% sure it hasn't launched yet, but it is coming. But the original Fall Magic is definitely one of my favorites in my collection. So 100% I would absolutely repurchase it. And the last palette I want to talk about is the Wet n Wild In Love with Cocoa palette. It's funny that I chose this because I was doing a video, I don't know, a couple of months ago where I pulled this palette out and I was kind of raving about it. And I was like, oh wait, was it in one of these videos? And I was raving about it and then I swatched it and I was like, ooh, that did not stand the test of time. I did pick this up a couple of years ago and these shimmers have lost their moisture. They're super dry now. When I first bought it, actually, it was pretty good, but it's a neutral palette, which I love, once again, but I hate Wet n Wild's packaging. It drives me freaking bonkers. Like, I can't. And like I said, although the color story is pretty, it's definitely not one that I need in my collection. It's definitely not one that if I lost it, I would even notice. And I guarantee this is not gonna make it through the next declutter. No, I would not repurchase it. All right, and that is it for this video. Let's do a little recap. Let's talk about what I would repurchase and what I would not repurchase. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 palettes that I would repurchase. The Viseart Petites Fours Violetta, the Odin's Eye and Makeup Just for Fun Flora Story, the Unearthly Cosmetics Fall Magic, the Nomad Royal Europe, and the Natasha Denona Glam Face Palette in the light version. And then the 3 I would not repurchase are Ace Beauté Begonia, In Love with Cocoa from Wet n Wild, and Dream Street from Kathleen Lights and ColourPop. That was really fun. I love going through my collection and just like picking out the palettes, kind of thinking hypothetically. I love talking about eyeshadow palettes. I know you love watching videos about eyeshadow palettes, so I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know your thoughts on any of these palettes down below in the description box. Do you agree with me? Would you repurchase any of these palettes? Would you not repurchase them? Do you have these ones in your collection? Do you want them in your collection? Let me know down in the comments because I love hearing from you. And if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. That helps me out a lot when you do that. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you would consider subscribing before you leave. I do upload videos weekly and I'd love to see you back on my channel again. I want to thank you so much for watching and I will see you next time. Bye.